Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the microservices demo. This is for the online training that will be conducted in the weekend. So let us see the agenda. First, I'll just tell you what is the outcome that you will get after at the end of this microservices online training. What we are going to cover in this training, overview of microservice. Before going into the overview, what is a monolithic architecture? The disadvantages of using a monolithic architecture, why we are moving on to microservice, benefits, few examples, and what exactly we are going to learn in this particular online session. Okay, so now let me just introduce about myself. I am Sri Priya here. I am a corporate training specialist. I've got 14 plus years of experience in training, and my expertise is in Java and JavaScript frameworks. I have delivered training in many corporates that include a few over here given here: Sapien, Harman, State Street, HP, Verizon, Benz, and so on. I have trained 1000 plus freshers in Java full stack. I have also trained experienced people in Spring and Spring microservices, that is in using Spring Boot. I have created online courses for Java full stack, starting from OAD to Spring microservices. I have done a complete end to end on Java full stack course, which is available online. Now, what will you get at the end of this particular training? You will become an expert to develop Spring microservice applications with the help of Spring Boot and the Netflix OSS stack. What exactly is this Netflix? We will see now. And also, you will learn how to deploy your microservice in a container. To start with, let us understand what is a monolithic architecture. In a monolithic architecture, you have got different tiers. One is a presentation tier, the business tier, which will handle the business logic, and the database tier that is going to work with the database. That is the enterprise information tier. In this, actually, whenever you are working with the monolithic architecture, you will be creating one single EAR file, that is an enterprise archive file or a war file, and this will be deployed in the server. This is how we have been working. And again, suppose if your application want to interact with any other external service, we use messaging or REST API. So this is a monolithic architecture. When you talk about presentation layer, it can be the front end part, that is HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Angular, React. All those come under the presentation tier. Whatever the user is seeing, that is a presentation. When you talk about the business tier can be Node, it can be Python, it can be Java. On top of Java, we have got Spring Framework, Spring MVC, Struts. Anything can be inside your business tier. And there is of course the database server. So this is a monolithic architecture. Now, why we are going in for a microservice architecture? What are the disadvantages of a monolithic architecture? So that is what we are going to see now. In case of a monolithic architecture, the code base is large, huge, it is heavy. So you have different modules. When you talk about an e-commerce application, it has got different modules. One for product, one for category, one for customer, seller, billing, order. So the code base is huge. So that is the first disadvantage. The as I told, when I say the code base is huge, it is also large and complex for any developer to understand and work in a monolithic architecture. Because of the huge size, it may slow down during the startup time. All the modules has to be there. I mean, whatever modules you have added, they have to be started up, and this may slow down the startup time. Whenever you want to do some modification, say for example, like if you want to add some new functionality, or if you want to change some functionality, modify the business logic or modify the presentation logic, in that scenario, for every update you need to redeploy your application. So this is the biggest disadvantage in case of a monolithic architecture. You redeploy, create a EAR file or a war file, and again run it to the server. So that is what we are doing. And in case of a monolithic architecture, you will be using the same technology stack. If you are working with Java, everything related to Java it will be. Say for example, in case of Spring MVC, it is completely Java, on top of that it is Spring. Or it can be Struts, on top of that with Spring. Struts as MVC, and we are having the Spring backend. So this is how we usually do in a monolithic architecture. That is, you are going to use the same technology stack. If you are working with Python, everything related to Python. JavaScript, everything related to Node. This is how it is. It is very difficult to scale. What is the meaning of that? Suppose say I have created an application, e-commerce application. I wanted to add new functionalities or a simple application. Now I want to add new functionality, means my code base is getting changed. It is becoming more, and at the same time I have to redeploy it again. Maintenance is difficult. And here, in case of a monolithic application, they are tightly coupled. When I say tightly coupled, each module talks to the other module. So obviously they are tightly coupled. When one module fails, the whole application itself crashes. So this also is a disadvantage of a monolithic architecture. Now we will understand what is a microservice. That is, I have one application. This application is converted into many loosely coupled services. Say, for example, I have an e-commerce application wherein I have got different modules based on the functionality. A module for product, a module for customer, a module for seller, a module for billing and order. So when you have different different modules based on the functionality, what we will be doing in case of a microservices, we are going to divide our application into loosely coupled services. Each module will be converted into a service. So microservice is nothing but an architectural style. Here, one big application is divided into multiple services based on the functionality. So how actually you are going to divide your application into different functionalities or different services? So for that, microservices is having its own design patterns. So here, when I talk about a microservice, what is the advantage or why we are going into for microservice? Let us understand this. So this is what I was telling about. If this is a normal monolithic application, each one will be a module, and that whole application will be deployed as an EAR. But in this case, when you talk about it as a microservice, this is a service, this is a separate service, this is a separate service. Each services can talk to each other. They are developed and deployed independently. Each service doesn't depend on the other service. That is the best advantage of a microservice. It is micro. One big application divided into multiple loosely coupled services. Each service can be developed and deployed independently. And there are few more benefits of microservice. We will see that. Before going into that part, we will understand the difference between a monolithic and a microservice. In case of monolithic, what is that? Tightly coupled modules. I told you here I am having order management, then what is that? Inventory management, then product management. All these, they are tightly coupled with each other. If something goes wrong, the whole application will crash. In case of microservice, order service is independent, it is individual, it can be developed separately. This will have its own database. Then inventory will have its own database, its own language. The code base also can be different. Product management, it also can be different. So here they are loosely coupled services. In case of a monolithic application, they are all this. I told you, the presentation, business and integration layer are one single unit deployed as a single WAR file. In case of microservice, each functionality is a separate service. So here, this is the pictorial representation. In case of monolithic, your presentation, business, all put together, it is deployed. In case of a microservice, each service can have its own database, or together with any other service, it can share the database. These two services can share the database. So this is the difference between a monolithic and a microservice. Now, just see what are the real-time companies that are using microservice. That is Netflix. So what you will be learning in this particular courses using this Netflix OSS. Okay, and then Amazon, eBay, Twitter, PayPal, all these companies, there are few more companies which have started using Spring microservices. So I have taken training for State Street and Harman in Bangalore. So these guys, these companies are also using microservices. This is the same application what I was telling. Here you can just see each one is a service. How the services talk to each other? How will I know what is happening? So for that, you create a service The service can be developed and deployed in any language. The service can have its own database, but the services, if they want to talk to each other, they have to register themselves to a service registry. So for that, we have got different service registries available, which are open source, but usually in different corporates, they don't go in for open source service registry. They develop their own proprietary service registries. Now, this whole part is nothing but my microservice ecosystem. That is, as I told you, I want to create an application for an e-commerce site. So this is my e-commerce application, wherein I am dividing my application into different microservices. Now there is an external world which is trying to connect to the microservice. So that external world is nothing but your shopping cart. So I hope this is clear. So this is a very basic example of microservice. Now still more we will see what are the benefits of microservice. So when you say microservice is an architectural style which is nothing but a combination of loosely coupled services, what is the advantage? Each service is nothing but one simple functionality. Say for example, if you talk about order service, it is just going to talk about the order alone. It is not bothered about the customer or the billing or seller. Only it is going to talk about order. So it is modular in nature. Each service is modular. They are going to follow the single responsibility principle, which is not a design principle, which usually we have to follow in Java. Okay, next is each service can be developed and deployed independently. When I say development, I can develop my microservice in Java, I can develop my microservice in Ruby on Rails, I can develop it in any other language, and I can deploy it. How the microservices are going to talk to each other? So I told you we need a service registry. Together with that, these microservices are created as REST APIs. So if you have worked in Spring Boot, for sure you will be knowing about what is a REST API, how actually REST APIs are going to send the data. So these microservices are developed as REST APIs and they are going to talk to each other. They are loosely coupled. Obviously, when you are using single responsibility principle, they are loosely coupled. If order wants to talk to product, how they will be talking? They are going to take one single medium. The data will be sent in the form of JSON. So you have not learned Spring. Yeah, so in case of I mean, before going into microservice, you need to have a basic at least understanding about what is Spring, what are the components of Spring, what is Spring IOC, how to develop a REST API using Spring. So maybe like offline I will explain more on that part. So now just understand what is the microservice part. Fine. So it is independently scalable. Now I have an order service. In the order service, suppose say if I want to add some wish list or if I want to add more functionality to this order service, that also is possible because you can add more and more functionalities to one particular service without disturbing another other services. So how actually they are? These are all services A, B, C, D, E. In C, if I want to add more functionalities, it is not going to affect the other services. This is the best part of working in a microservice. It is scalable, independently development and deployment is possible. So these are few things. And one more thing is microservice here it is faster. Why? Single responsibility principle. The code base is small and you need to remember the size of your microservice team should be in such a way that they can share only two pizzas, not more than that. That is, the size of your microservice team should be small and your code base is also small. The database is not going to hang because it's not going to take care of a huge data. So that is the best part. It is faster. Next is improved fault isolation. So again the same story. I have got multiple services. If something happens in one particular service, it is easy for me to handle because it is not going to affect the other services. So here I'm having inventory, then I'm having product, I'm having seller, I'm having buyer and a billing, so many services. If something goes wrong in a seller, the other service, I don't have to go and touch the other services. I will just take care of this particular service. Fault isolation is very easy. And again, if an exception or anything occurs in this particular microservice, it can be informed to the other services also. That way also it is possible. So these are few benefits of microservices. So as I told you, so this you have to remember. Compared to a monolithic architecture, this is modular, independent development and deployment. So you can have any different language. You can use your own choice of language. Whenever something goes wrong, it is very easy to identify it. Fault tolerance is possible. It is independently scalable. It means that you can add more and more functionalities to one particular service without disturbing the other services. Okay, technology diversity, I already told. The technology stack can be different for different services. How they are going to talk? They are just going to talk as REST APIs only, so it's very easy. Now, for creating and working with the microservice, what are the things actually you need? So now assume that I'm having an online application, online shopping app. So based on few design patterns that are there in a microservice, you need to divide your application into a set of loosely coupled services. Services means what here? It's nothing but the functionality. So you will say, okay, I must have a seller service. I must have something related to product, something related to order, something related to customer. So you are identifying the functionalities or modules based on certain design patterns. Once you have identified, now how the services can talk to each other, for that we need a common registry. These services has to register themselves in this common registry. So for that, the first thing is you need to have a service registry. So this is my service registry. So here I'm getting a question, I think. Microservices and web services are different or same? In case of microservices, it is one single application. So in case of microservice, so one big application, I am dividing it into smaller services. So the whole application itself is divided into smaller services. For the external world, for the outside world, it's only one single service. So they are actually related to each other, something like that. When you say a web service is independent of other services. So you have, in case of web service, there are two web services. One is REST APIs, the other one is big web service. What is the purpose of going in for web services? The main reason is platform independency. I have a code which is written in Java, which is a web application. Now I want to get the data of footballers who are from USA or who are from Canada. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to connect to a service which is written in a totally different language. So in case of web services, they are going to return the data in the form of XML. This Java application will take it, convert it and show it to you. So here, say for example, I know Kannada and you know Hindi, so we don't know, we cannot talk to each other. So the language or the medium what we are taking is English. So you are going to communicate to me in English, even though whatever you are thinking is in the form of Hindi. So now again, what I am thinking maybe in a different language, but I am understanding your English, taking it, converting it into my mother tongue. That is how it is. So this is a big service, big web services. But in case of REST API, in case of microservices, you are converting your own one single application into different services. So service oriented architecture and microservice, that is what I was explaining. In case of a service oriented architecture, again I will just explain this part and then we will go in for this one. See, in case of a service oriented architecture, actually, like I have created my application. Okay, assume I have an application which is going to give the weather report of different countries, which is going to give the football players about, details about the football players. All these I have created. Now what I want is, I want other people to use my application. So what I will do is, I have to expose it. For exposing it, we'll be exposing it as a web service. Now this web service cannot be, so I assume that I have done it in Java, and there is another application which is running in Python or .NET. Now what happens is, this application wants those details. So what it will do, it cannot, from Python I cannot talk in the terms of Java. So what we do is, we need an external medium. So for that, here we are going in for service oriented architecture. We use XML. Earlier people were working with this XML. So you have got, when you talk about web services, you have web service description language. As I told you, your mother tongue may be different. My mother tongue may be different. When you are thinking in terms of your mother tongue, that is Java, and you are giving all the details in terms of a known language, that is XML. XML is doesn't depend on any platform. Now, this Python is going to take that XML, that is, I will take that XML, I will understand it, and I will convert it into my mother tongue. So this Python will convert it into its own language. So how I will know that this service is available? So for that you have got, so in case of services oriented architecture, you have got few components. We use SOAP, Simple Object Access Protocol, which is nothing but XML plus HTTP. This is SOAP. This was used earlier. So web service description language is nothing but this class says, see, these are the methods available. This is the parameters this method is taking. This is the return type. So in Python, what I have to do is I have to understand that XML. I have to create methods, the stubs of those methods, so that from my Python you are making a call to Java using this XML. So this is how it works in a service oriented architecture. In case of a microservice, it is not that. Each application, they are created as REST APIs. It is not for external application. I hope you can understand this. See, once a very simple example I'll tell you. See, in case of SOAP, I mean, service-oriented architecture, a very simple example. Assume I am running a, I mean, what is that? I'm running a restaurant or a hotel. I'm running a hotel. Now I'm providing a lodging and staying. Now what happens is, like, I'm getting some inquiries for traveling inside the city or outside or whatever. I don't have that facility. So what I'm doing is I am making a call. I'm making a service call to the backend. So this can be using a service oriented architecture, that is using XML I can do, or I can also make a REST API call to the backend, to a travel agent who is willing to send me the details. So how he will do, he may be having his own cabs and everything. How he will give me, he will be giving me in the form of a brochure saying that if you are taking Innova this, Indiga this much price, all these, this is nothing but my XML. So this is for a service oriented architecture. This also, it is not mandatory that you need XML. It can also be REST web services. This is a normal service oriented architecture. A hotel application doesn't know anything about the travel agency. These two are totally independent. They don't know about each other, but they are talking to each other using XML or REST API. Now I will come to microservice. In case of microservice, it is one single application. One single application, I am dividing it into multiple services. Say, for example, I want to create an application for an employee. Oh, what is that? I was telling about an online app, right? Online e-commerce application. So here, one single application, I am dividing it into multiple services. It means there is a hotel. This hotel is having different departments: a housekeeping department, a department to take the people for a tour, and the department to take care of the catering, that is the kitchen. So how these things are going to talk to each other? That is nothing but the REST API. Instead of one single person taking care of everything, housekeeping will have his own person to take care of housekeeping. Touring will have its own people to take care of it. So they are going to talk to each other using REST APIs. So that is the difference. This is one single application divided into multiple services. In case of REST API, or in case of SO, service oriented architecture, we are going to connect to an external service. So that is the main difference. And when I have created this application, I need a front end, right? This front end can be Angular or React. You all know. Now, if this guy is going to connect to the backend, what is that? It is nothing but a REST API call. Just like how I told a hotel connecting to a travel agency. So here I'm having my front end application, which is going to make a REST API call to the backend microservice. So when I want to create, I was just talking about this, when I want to create the microservice, so what are the things that I have to consider? I have to consider the service registry. So first I need a service registry. Each service should be developed as a REST API. That is the second part. Then we have a fault tolerance. We have to take care of the fault tolerance, gateway API, load balancing, and declarative client. All these you will be learning with the help of Netflix OSS. This is the service registry. Hystrix is used for fault tolerance if something goes wrong in my microservice. Then I'm having Zool. What is the purpose of Zool? So I told I'm having an Angular application which wants to connect to my microservice. So I have an intermediate gateway. This is like your security here. So this is a security when an Angular application wants to connect. When I'm going into any techno park, I mean there will be a security based on my information only is going to connect me to the backend, right? So same way this is a gateway API. So this has got filters. With the help of Zool you can do routing. All these will be taken care by Zool. The next one is Ribbon, which is nothing but a client-side load balancer. So these are the things that we'll be covering in our net microservice online training. So I don't want to go in detail into that part. So this is the complete microservice ecosystem. Hmm. So this whole thing is my microservice. One single application deployed as a microservice. Okay, so this is a service which is deployed, developed and deployed separately. This one is developed and deployed separately. So each service is developed and deployed separately. We are adding certain components to every microservice. And as I told, Zool is the API gateway and these are external people. How they are going to connect to the complete backend microservice? Using REST API. So we were discussing about the microservice. So what actually I will be covering in this microservice is this part. So the service registry, here we will be using Eureka service registry. Then each service we will be using Spring Boot to develop with Spring Data JPA and all those stuffs, whatever is needed for Spring Framework. Then for fault tolerance, how to work with fault tolerance in case of a microservice. We are working with Netflix OSS, so I will be using Hystrix. In case of Gateway API, it is Zool. For load balancing, in case of client-side load balancing, we will be learning about Ribbon. The declarative client is Fiend. So these words or these terms can be a little bit difficult to know and understand, but once you start understanding the microservice ecosystem, it is very easier to learn. And here we will be incrementally developing the application step by step. So you will be learning, it's like an end-to-end application only. So you'll be learning how to use the components on top of creating a end-to-end application. So this is how actually we will be creating an application. This client is nothing but it can be a front end, it can be a web app or a mobile app or a desktop app. See here it is given a web app, a mobile app or any API integration. So it has to cross through Zool API gateway, and these are all the services that you would have created. And all the services has to register themselves in Eureka service registry. And if the request for a particular service is coming more and more, how to do the load balancing? So for that we will be using Ribbon. We will be learning all those stuffs in detail, so you don't have to bother about it. So this is about the microservice ecosystem, and that is the outside world. Okay, so now I will move on to the next part. Why I would say that my our spring live training will get you the result what you are expecting. That is about how to become an expert in a spring microservice architecture and these things. So first thing is the smaller batch size. I don't go in for a batch size more than 5, and it is a personalized and customized training in the sense like we will be using Zoom only. If something goes wrong in any of your machine, you will be connecting to your machine and I will be checking your checking whether you are doing it correct or not, so that way I can help you out. It is completely hands-on oriented sessions only. If I talk about Hystrix, first I will explain what is Hystrix, how to work with that, and immediately whatever code I am doing I will be uploading it into GitHub so that you can take it and practice it later. While practicing it, if you want to understand what has happened earlier, so all the live sessions will be recorded and we will be giving access to the recorded live sessions. And every application you will be doing it from the scratch, meaning to say that the first one what you will be doing is of course a service registry. Then you will be creating a REST API. While creating a REST API, you will be also learning about the basics of Spring Boot with Spring Data JPA, which is more important. Okay, so this is more important, the Spring Data JPA part. So here either we may be using MySQL or H2 database. So based on that, both I can show you. So usually I show MySQL. Few people they ask for H2, so that also I have shown. How to work with derived queries, custom queries also you will be learning. And then I have developed an online course for Spring microservices, so you'll be getting a free access to that course also. If you're that is like an end-to-end application, kind of a small application which I have done. So you will be getting an unlimited trainer support from me for 3 months. Anywhere you are getting stuck, if you want to develop an application similar to that, that also I can just help you. So this is about my online training.